Good day and welcome to this short video on the use of the APLISO-Plus ISO management system. This is really a quick overview on how the system works and helps you manage all your ISO requirements in one simple place. There is a simple login process where you log into the system, enter your username and password, which will be provided to you under normal circumstances. And just make sure you're not a robot. Click on the sign in button and it will authenticate you and make sure that you are the correct person to access the system. So the option is obviously to select the company that you're working in. From there, you're able to identify all the different aspects of the system. Let's do a quick run through of the screen. So basically you can see we're on the dashboard on the home page, which has got various bits of information for you, like a list of all my open tasks. I can click on that and it will show me what the open tasks are, and the system will bring that up. I can select different task types. So nice and easy to see. I can select a date, I can download it to Excel, etc. And I can view a list of the tasks on a calendar as well. And from there, able to identify what tasks are outstanding, and there you can see them. Let's go back to the dashboard. The system has objectives. So if you're running ISO 9001 quality management, you'll see your quality management objectives here. And by clicking on the option here, you can see the results for each of the different objectives that you've selected and the results by month. If you happen to be running information security as well, you'll see the same thing. So obviously you've got to select the objective that you're looking for, and it'll show you what the results are for that. Down the next graph shows you the assigned tasks that are either outstanding or pending or into the future for each different user. And by clicking on any one user, we can see what the breakdown is of those different tasks. So nice and useful management information there for you. Looking at those tasks in different categories, you can see what they are here cumulatively across everybody. I can go back and see what was still in 2023, etc. So I've got some useful information to be able to manage that process. Outstanding tickets relates to your non-conformances, your complaints, your incidents, etc. The color coding allows us to understand where we are in terms of different departments and the status of each ticket. We'll go through that in the compliance section of the system. ISO obviously needs us to look at risks. It becomes the new way of understanding and identifying where corrections and updates need to be done in the business. And we set different statuses of risks based on an algorithm that scores them according to certain criteria. And you can see here observed status, assigned status, action status, accepted and closed. And by clicking on any one of these risks, it'll further break it down into the different types of risks that we've identified. Business, process, health and safety, information security, operational. So you've got a little bit more useful information there in terms of where you are as far as risks are concerned. And all of that is tied into the risk management module up here on the left-hand side. Customer satisfaction data, if you happen to have captured that, would be appearing here. Calibration status, this relates to assets that you may or may not need to calibrate. What is passed, what has failed, what is overdue, and then assets that need inspection and or maintenance, and you can see again what is due and what is past due. Right, then the last two graphs are literally related to skills and training. So what skills do we need in the organization? One of the things that ISO asks us to look for is, have we employed people with the right skills? If not, what are we going to do to ensure that those skills are transferred to the employees or the workers or whoever they may be, so that they can deliver the best product or quality service to your customers. So here you can see we've identified a number of skills, and against each of those skills we've set a target that we want to achieve, what we're actually achieving, and what the gap is. So nice and easy to identify that. And then the second graph is literally just showing that by department. So we can see which departments are ahead or behind in terms of their skill assessments and requirements. So that's the dashboard, nice and simple, but it gives you some really useful information. A little sticky notepad on the right here allows you just to update any notes that you may have. Let's go down the left-hand side of the system, and I'm going to start near the bottom to start with. System settings is where you would define the different settings or statuses that are applicable to your business. So at the very first one, for example, your departments. You would define the departments that are applicable to your business, HR, finance, etc., and they'll all have a code. and you would use that code in various modules that you need to. And we've got various other ones: asset status, asset type, job roles, meeting types, calibration, legal, etc., etc. So you'll see that there's fairly straightforward. We also have the ability to create various templates, and these were document templates. So I can create a document template. Oh, okay, it looks like my user profile doesn't give me access for that. I must resolve that one. Document templates. We've got checklist templates, which allows you to create checklists that would be completed on a daily, weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, whatever basis. And then workflow templates. So again, fairly straightforward, is that you can create different checklists. Here, for example, you'll see a recruitment checklist, and it'll give you the breakdown. You design it with your header, your footer, and all the different fields that you need with yes, no buttons, etc., etc. So that is within your system settings and your checklists. As an example there. Workflow templates, also same sort of thing. You design the different workflow templates that you've got. Here, for example, we've got an onboarding workflow template, and we can go in and we can see the different template requirements here. What are the steps that need to be done? Okay, so that's system settings. These settings obviously apply to all the different aspects of the modules that you would use, and that's where it's all important. So let's jump into the next one. Let's start at risk management. Here's where you will capture and maintain your risks. Very simple and easy process. You would use the click add risk button. It'll obviously tell you which company you're in. You would then define what type of risk it is. Remember, I said these are set up under the system settings. So business risk, environmental risk, etc. And then who the owner of that risk would be, which department does it belong to, or where has it been identified? What is the category? Is it an external risk, an internal risk, a health and safety? And again, these risk categories you would define within your system settings, and then you give it a risk description. So very pertinent at the moment. Local and national elections could result in workforce unsettlement. Right, and what's the impact of that? Is it could be workforce stayaways and loss of production is something that you would obviously maybe identify. And you say, well, I've identified it today. You could obviously backdate it if necessary. We would like this resolved, or at least addressed by, we know that the elections are going to be held at the end of May, so hopefully that will be resolved by, let's say, the beginning of June. Let's just allow a little bit of leeway there. What's the probability that there will be unsettlement? I'd say it's probably 50%, and the impact, if it should happen, could be relatively severe. Not sure. You can judge for yourself, but obviously you can do it on a scale of 1 to 10. If you think it's worse, you'd put an 8. If you think it's less, you put a 2, for example. And then based on that, you can see how it changes the color based on the risk value. So the higher the value, it becomes a red. The lower the value, it becomes a orange. And at a very low value, it becomes a green. So I'm just going to put it in the middle, and I'm going to save it. This ticket option allows me to link it to a ticket that we may have captured, be it a non-conformance or a change request or a complaint or whatever the case might be. Right, so let's just save that. Now we've got that new risk. It's been captured there. It's a business risk. It's number 62, automatically referenced by the system. And I've got the details there, and you can see it's in an assigned status. If we go down, you can see all the different statuses. Let me just increase the selection window. And if I go down, you can see all the different statuses. Some are accepted, some are assigned, some are actioned. And obviously that's very important, because now from a management point of view, we can focus on those that have the highest value down to the lowest value, and obviously work through that. You can set update dates when you want to next review this risk. So maybe you're going to decide to review it at the next meeting, which might be, say, the 27th of March. You want to update and review it again as things progress through the period. I can go onto the risk here. I can see all the details that we've captured. I can now allocate specific action items. So here, risk task has been allocated. That's a review on the 27th. So immediately, this person has been assigned a task to make sure that they go and review that risk. I can add any further actions that I may require, assign them to an individual with a due date. So fairly straightforward. If there are any costs associated, so maybe we've got a security cost, a service cost here, and this would come from Careful Security, and they're going to send us an invoice on a monthly basis. So by the end of the month, they'll send us an invoice, and maybe the increase in the security cost is 1,500 a month, or whatever the case is. I've now got that cost associated. This is showing in dollars because I haven't changed my profile from being dollars to rands. But yeah, it's multi-currency, so we can set it up in whatever currency we need to. If there's any documentation I need to upload, I can do that here. I can add documents as in where I need to do so. And the system will keep a track of notes every time we've done or updated or changed anything on the system. So there you go. That's the simple process of managing risks, and nice and simple and easy all in one place. I can extract this to an Excel report, and the Excel report will come out, and we can then obviously do whatever we need to do with that report. Right, let's go down to the next section, which is compliance. Here's where we capture tickets, typically your non-conformance tickets, your change requests, your complaints, or your incidents. Again, in your ISO requirements, you need to be able to keep a record of these things, how they've been processed, etc. And here you can see a whole bunch. I've got 178 tickets that have been captured, and all tickets go through different statuses. They start off at initial statement status, they go to corrective action, they'll go to root cause analysis, there's root cause analysis, they'll go to resolved, and then finally they would end up approved and closed. So there's different statuses that they go through. If I want to look at a certain type of ticket, so maybe I only want to look at non-conformances, there I can look at my non-conformances, I can see the number, I can go into that non-conformance, I can see what the details of that non-conformance are. There's the details, which is the customer, if there is, the branch, the details there, who's the management system representative to handle this. I can update that. I can put an accountable person in here to make sure that that's, sorry, let me just correct that. I can put in an accountable, how's that not working there? An accountable person. So I can, oh, okay, let me just try and get that correct. Accountable person. And obviously then all those details, the location of where this maybe this non-conformance took place. So maybe it was in the warehouse. This is the initial statement status. Was it found by an auditor? You can put the auditor's details, and if there's an internal reference, you can do that. So I can save that information, which is all very valid. And then now we want to start and add corrective actions. So we would go and step that we need to, and we do that by changing that status. Here we can set up the different categories and subcategories. This one happened to be set up like that. If there was a system involved, and we can set a due date that this should be resolved by, let's say, by Friday this week. Save that, and that's obviously now all in place. Any costing information, again, I can add costs. Now we need to add the corrective action. I click on the Add Corrective button, add the corrective step, and I'm just going to type here, add corrective steps, allocate to a specific user with a due date, and that's by tomorrow, etc. Any task that I add here will appear under the task option here on the left-hand side where my mouse is shining to now, so you can see that. Once this task has been completed, it would then go to root cause analysis. If there's any risk associated with this non-conformance, we can add the risk. If there's any documentation, we can upload a copy of the documentation there. And again, the notes shows what's happened from when this ticket was created. So it's literally a audit trail of all the things that have taken place. And that's literally how the ticket process works. Obviously, you've got different types of tickets, like I said. If it is an incident, we're able to classify this in terms of a human incident or a physical incident. So somebody got injured, we'd need to capture those details. I'm not going to do that now, but if I just go and show you an incident ticket, and we can say, here's an example, forklift driver drove into an oncoming vehicle. What were the details of that? We can see the investigation team has been appointed. What was the incident? We've got those details. Here's the person's particulars. We've got the details. The person who was injured in that process. And we can see here that he had a injury to his leg, and it looks like there were some deep lacerations. So that's fairly exciting in terms of being able to capture all that information. You can then print this out, and you can get signatures from your different health and safety committee members, lead investigators, etc. And all the usual facilities are available there, like we had under the non-conformance. So the ticket system is great in terms of being able to manage your non-conformance requirements in terms of ISO. Internal audit, we're able to create and capture your internal audit results on the system. You plan them, they get run. You can see a couple in progress here. When they're completed, you would end up with an audit that shows you what was compliant, what was non-compliant, and I can then print the report, which is available for the ISO auditors or for management. You can see what the details are that needed to be covered, who was the auditee, what was the results, review quality policy, found certain things not done, that was non-compliant, any recommendations, etc., and who attended that audit. So you've got all those details. So it's pretty useful in terms of being able to manage that. One of the features of the system is that we give the ISO auditors a log-on profile, which is read-only, so they can access all this information in the execution of their certification audit. Management review, this allows you to do and set up and run your different management meetings. Again, under system settings, you would have defined your different meeting types. So here you can see an ops meeting, a risk meeting, a management review meeting, etc. So you can set the different types of meetings. You invite certain users to them. Meeting is scheduled on a date, and so it happens. So there you've got the meeting date, but it was actually created on that date. When the meeting is complete, you've got a record of all the minutes. So you can see who the users were who attended the meeting, what the agenda was. I can see all the agenda items, and then what the minutes were associated with that, with certain tasks that have been allocated to people as a result of those meetings, of that meeting minute. And again, you can print that meeting report, which will show what was discussed, who attended it, what the agenda was, what the discussion was, and all those details. So that's all available under the management review section. What the system does allow you for is that if any action item is not completed for a type of meeting by the next meeting, so here you've got an ops meeting that took place on the 17th of October, and the next one was on the 29th of February. Any action items from this meeting that were not complete would automatically come forward as open items on the next meeting. So you never lose track of things that you've discussed action at a certain point in time. That's management review. Legal compliance is simply a legal register of different legal compliance requirements that you have. So, for example, if you ISO 9001, you would need to make sure that you've got your 16.2 appointments in place, your first aiders, your firefighters, etc. So you can add whatever those details are, who's responsible, has that been appointed, he has a copy of the letter uploaded, etc. So a simple legal register of all the different things. Here's 27001, your POPI, your GDPR, your BE, etc. So all your normal legal compliance requirements dependent on the type of standard and operation that you're running. Company operations is the kind of hub of what the business does. So in other words, your policies, your procedures, your processes, etc. These are set up. Here's your document register, but your document register is also the actual document repository as well. So each document is uniquely referenced based on the company code, the department, the type of document, and obviously a sequential number from there on in. It's got an owner, it's got a department, it's got the type of document, which standard does it belong to, the classification, the date it was created, who needs to approve it, the version, and the status, and when its next review date is. So nice and easy, you can see that these need to be reviewed. And when that review comes up, that approver will get a notice to say, please, will you go and review that document and make sure it's still applicable. You'll notice here that there's version 7, version 1, version 2, version 3. The system keeps a full track of your versions. So if I click on here and have a look at it, it says it's version 7. We can see it there. It says version 7. Here it says version 7. And I can click on document versions and go back and show me what was version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I'm always able to keep track of what was the previous version and what's there. So staff going onto the system will always access the latest version by clicking on the respective document. Here's the document notes that will tell me everything that's happened as it's gone through its various changes. And finally, this little block on the top right-hand here says mark as read. Is I, as a user, have not read and understood this document yet. When I do, I would say, yes, I have. I click it, and it'll now go to green, and we can then pull a report that says these users have read these policies, procedures, and processes, whereas these ones haven't been read, and that's all just helped by indicating it on the system there. To create a document is actually pretty simple. There's two different options. The first option is to say, first of all, obviously to identify the type of document. Let's just say it's a policy. Then we're going to say it's an internal document, and that opens up a whole word editor here where I can edit and complete the content of the document. Or I can say it's an external document, and then I would simply upload a copy of the file that I need to upload. So that would be a Word document or a PDF that's already been generated, upload it on here. The document name, the department, the classification, the owner, the approver. This little, obviously, which ISO clause it belongs to, so you can keep track of all the ISO clauses. And then this feature down the bottom here allows you to include or exclude certain users. So you may have certain policies that belong to a certain group of users that need to have access to them, whereas the rest of the staff don't. So that means that you can exclude users. You can either do it based on a job role, or you can list the individual users. So here would give me a list of all the users. So I can obviously exclude that, or I can do it based on a job role. So maybe we say this is not applicable to the sales reps. So they would be excluded from whatever this policy was and automatically bring through anybody who's linked to that job role of sales rep. So pretty straightforward in terms of being able to do that. So that's just one of the ways of creating the document as you upload it. So let's just have a look here. Here's an example. There's a leave policy. So you can see that's an internal generated document. You can see the details of that. And if we go to, like, for example, this one here, this was an SOP, and this is now a downloadable document. So if I click on that, you'll see it will now open as a completely separate document, but still controlled through the main header information, which is here. If I just go back, there is the attached PDF, which gives us all the details that we were after. Okay, so that's the documentation side. Again, I can extract to Excel. I can do what I need to there, and your auditors would have access to this so they can go through and view the different documents on your system. Your suppliers, here you capture and manage all your different suppliers. So we know that we're using the most approved and appropriate suppliers. So you've got a status, limited use, annual preference supplier, pre-approve on each order, continue to use, or declined, or whatever the case is. So you can see that we can manage that. You obviously define the supplier details. We can import suppliers. There's an Excel file. You download a copy of that file, import it, and make sure it's got all the right content in it. And so you go. And obviously, one of the things is that you now got a review date when you want to go back and review the supply. You can see this one's past its review date. So I'm going to go in and say, well, yes, next review date now we'll make it the end of, let's say the end of May. They are currently a preference supplier. Maybe they haven't been doing as well as we'd like them to do. We'll change that to pre-approve on each order. And the reason being previous orders were incomplete. So let's just pre-approve on each order. It's updated now, and we've got a new review date. So great, that supplier has now been pre-approved. I do notice that we had that as declined, but that's so so you've got the annual status and the actual approved status. So this is the supplier annual status. Okay, awesome. Let's look at assets. So you can keep a track of all the different assets that you've got in the company. This again, an import facility, so you can download an Excel file and add all the assets that you've got if that happens to be in your financial system. The feature of adding an asset individually: description, reference, location, owner, department, asset type, the asset value, and again, define which currency you've got it in, the asset use, the address, the manufacturer, the model, CPU pass mark if it's a piece of computer equipment. Does it need calibration, yes or no? What is the status, new, reconditioned, etc.? You can define that. Is it insured? Does it need maintenance? And who's it been issued to? And that's quite a useful feature, particularly with things like laptops, computers, etc., or motor vehicles. Who's it been issued to, so that when that person leaves, we know that we can ensure that that asset is returned, or it's under their care. We can make sure that we keep track of who's doing what with what asset. So again, a useful feature there. This would also then be able to track your maintenance, etc. So if I take a forklift, for example, you can see that there is calibration results. This has been updated with the calibration results. If there's any maintenance tasks when it goes for servicing or repairs, etc., we can keep track of that. And similarly, all the costs associated with those sort of things. So that is your assets. Customers, this is where you would capture your customer records. Again, pertinent to when you might have customer complaints, you would need to make sure that you've got the customer on the system. Workflows, this is where you can, those workflow templates that I showed you under system settings, you can now set and run your different workflows, which automatically generates tasks for the appropriate users to follow through on. And then likewise, the checklist, as I said, You capture different checklists. You can then execute them, whether they're daily, weekly, monthly, etc., and the status of where each check sheet is. So I can go in here and you can see this has been requested for an update. So the user needs to go and update the results. And when he's finished, he'll mark it as complete. So that's really nice and useful in terms of being able to do that. So that's company operations for you. Resources, this is where we set up all our different staff roles. So you've got your staff roles, your employee reference number, their name, surname, their job title, the job role that they've got, who they report to, the branch, the department, their key objectives, their key deliverables, and then any linked procedures that person might need to stick to in terms of their job, any assets that they've been allocated, the date they joined, their status, who approves them, and what their next review date is. So that's, again, pretty useful in terms of being able to do, for example, your 6-monthly performance appraisal or whatever the case might be. And again, you've got different statuses here. Let me just increase my selection screen size. And you can see here where we've had employees that have been terminated, so their details are taken off. So there's no longer, obviously, review dates applicable to those. This all pulls forward onto an organogram, so we can see who fits into the organization where. And what's nice is I can click on any one of the people, see what their department is, their name, the date they joined, and their status. I can then subsection this and say, well, I want to look at people in the ops department, and there's my operational team, etc. So pretty useful from that point of view. What's also useful in terms of the staff roles is if I click on any staff role, you'll see what the person's skill requirements are, where they are in terms of their skills, any tasks associated with this employee, and then their training records. What training have they done? Have they completed it? Did they achieve the results that they need? Do they need to be monitored for the specific courses or sections that they've done? So a nice record of all the training that's been completed in the organization. And here would be a total view of all the training that's been completed across all the different employees. Finally, monitoring and measuring. This is where you would obviously set and manage your objectives. So, for example, your quality objectives, which I showed you on the dashboard. Each quality objective's got a number, what it is, how frequently it would be updated, who's the responsible party for that, what the latest result was, and when its next review date is. So you can see that this is due on the 14th. So if I click on that and look at the results, there's no update for the results applicable to that objective now. If I take one that is due daily, like this one here, this has got a daily update. I click on that one and I go and say, well, what are the results? You can see that I'm behind in capturing my daily results. So the target here was 1. If I've got the results available, so maybe this day we had 1.2, 1.3, whatever it is, it's trending upwards, and the next review date will automatically be updated based on its frequency. So I can save that, and now again, we've got to capture the next one, and so you go. And this keeps a track of all the time that the results have been updated, so we know exactly who did it and when it was done. So there's your information security objectives. If you happen to be running a information security management system, you would have your statement of applicability, and this is just a subset of that, where you can capture the different controls that you would manage for that, how we control it through process risk, suppliers, assets, or other. Right. As I said, the task is the kind of driving force behind the system. So here you can see that all the different tasks, I can run it by date. I can look at different task types. So let's just say document tasks. There's document action tasks. You can see a document's been approved, needs to be updated, whatever the case is. Or we've got objective tasks, or we've got risk tasks, etc. So pretty useful. Extract to Excel. Nice thing is you can start to chase up things that are overdue, and really useful to keep up to date on things. We do have a project facility, but I'm not going to go through that now. There are various standard reports that we've written, but most of these reports all relate to the ticket side of it. This document view report at the bottom here is the one that shows you which has been read and which has been unread. So I can see what's been unread, what has not been read by the different users. So sales rep has not read that policy. Alistair has not read that policy, and which version it is. So you can pick that up very quickly. So that's a useful report that we've got there. There is a leave facility, and then where you can capture a leave. And then lastly, the announcements. As we announce updates and upgrades or changes to the system, we would put an announcement on. You can click on the announcement and it gives you what the announcement was. So the latest feature, etc. And then lastly, we've got help and support. So under help, you will have different videos or different user guides, etc. The last thing I want to just talk about is you see at the bottom right-hand side, that says, how can we help you? This is a internal help facility where you can literally type your text of what you want. So for example, how do I capture a risk? It will then go ahead and let me just move this guy out the way. There we go. And the system will go away and say, let me see if I can find that answer for you. And it'll come back and say, that's what you do. Go to this section, do that, etc. And if you're happy, you go confirm yes or no. So nice and useful just to have a bit of quick help on the side to get you through the system. That, in essence, is the APLISO-Plus system designed to help and manage your ISO compliance in one place, pulling together all the key requirements from an ISO perspective with auditor access, also with different user profiles and different user guides. You're able to provide certain facilities or certain functions to certain user types, and that all makes it a lot easier to control and manage. And that, in essence, is what the ISO management system is all about. I hope you found that useful, and we look forward to any further questions you may have.